Hello and welcome to yet another release review video. My name is Sebastian. I am the creator of MobiFlight. This is my YouTube channel and I will talk about the latest and greatest changes that I was able to put and bundle into the latest release of MobiFlight, which is 9.3. So check it out with me together and learn why it is so cool and why I'm so excited and why you should definitely upgrade. All right, so let's move over to the website and take a look at the release notes. Here I'm at MobiFlight.com and we can go to the download page. In case that you have never downloaded MobiFlight before, you can always find it here to download the installer. And then on the same page, we have the release notes 9.3.1 and 9.3. There was a hotfix right after the official 9.3 release. It's a funny story actually, because during holiday season, I changed the welcome message on the MobiFlight LCD screen from MobiFlight rocks ! To happy holidays, and now I wanted to take the opportunity and change it back, so I decided to be even more excited about it and display MobiFlight rocks with 3 exclamation marks, which turned out to be a bad idea because there are old bootloaders out there installed on Arduino boards that you also use that had a problem with these 3 exclamation marks. So I had to step down my excitement a little bit, and it is now saying MobiFlight rocks with 1 exclamation mark again, and this was this great bug fix. So as you can see, obviously there was a change to the firmware, and this box, it calls out for this. Whenever you see a yellow box as part of the release notes, it's something that should grab your attention. You should pay attention to this. It says, for example, that you need to update the firmware to be able to use the latest features. And the same thing is also true for release 9.3. Also, there was a MobiFlight firmware bundled, a newer version. And also, for those who use Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, you guys know that we need a WASM module, a so-called WASM module installed in your community folder. MobiFlight can do that for you during startup. And the MobiFlight WASM module message here reminds you that please, if this dialog pops up, make sure to say, yes, install this, go ahead. If you do it twice, it doesn't matter. You will simply receive a message that the latest WASM module was already installed. Cool. Now let's take a look at the first new features. There are some in this release. This one, the first one is, I will zoom in a little bit and we can see it says smart search for available variables in the output config wizard. HubHop integration in parentheses. Actually, in short, I can say we have a far better, really neat integration with all of our information from HubHop. You know that HubHop is a MobiFlight project, MobiFlight community project, I should say, where we are collecting all these variables, the codes, the different things to access input and output settings or variables on the sim. It ships with the entire event list, and now it is also searchable. So how does this MobiFlight Smart HubHop integration look like? We have it here for outputs and for inputs. So let's say HubHop demo. Okay, that's what we call it. And you see we have a brand new form. It's looks very different, but it's so cool because now you can go by vendor and you can say, give me, for example, my working title aircraft, which is obviously the CJ4. You can say, I want to set up and configure something for the avionics stack. And then there's only just one, which is kind of weird, but okay, let's see if there's a little bit more. The autopilot, for for example. Okay, wow, there's WTCJ4, autopilot, altitude hold, and all these kind of cool things. You can select one of those, and then automatically the preset is loaded and it's going to work nicely inside the sim. However, if you don't really know which one to look for, then you can also use the text field. So for example, autopilot, and you see we still have 208 matches, and now you can still select, for example, the Piper arrow. Now we have 4 matches. So all these variables have something, or these presets have something to do with the autopilot, and that's really, really cool. And if you ever wanted to take a look at the code that is actually kind of behind all this, then you can use the show preset code and take a look at what is actually coming with the preset. That is really cool. If the preset is has a lot of code, then you can also expand this window, and that is really awesome. It's so much easier to find the preset that you're looking for. And in case that you also don't see it here because someone has added it on HubHop in the meantime, you can also go and always say download latest events from HubHop. It's going to take a while. Sorry, nothing is happening. It's kind of blocking. There should be maybe some message, but you see after a couple of seconds, everything has been downloaded, and you would see any newly added events that have been added since the last release or the last time that you updated automatically here now also showing up. That's pretty exciting. That's super cool. It's going to make our lives a lot easier when configuring MobiFlight for your most favorite planes. And as we have it for the outputs, of course, we also do have it for the inputs. Let's do a HubHop demo, look like this, and go to the input settings. Now I'll grab one of my modules. This one, for example, I have a button, obviously, and here I can take the MSFS 2020 custom input, and from the input sections now I can also take advantage of the same way of searching, filtering through all the different presets, which is absolutely fantastic and makes it super, super easy to configure anything that you need for your favorite aircraft. So one thing that I would love to point out is this has been designed in such a way that supposedly it's going to be 100% backward compatible with any assignment that you have had in the past, because if you have paid attention, then you will see that there is no more an option for MSFS 2020 events, which we used to have, where we had this mechanism that used the event text file that you had to copy and always have to have in your MobiFlight WASM module installation folder, and so on and so forth. So it should theoretically work. If you had an old configuration using the old system, as soon as you go and edit this configuration, it will be loaded as a custom input. So we do some lookup behind the scenes. We try to find the code that was originally standing behind your label, and then we try to look up the correct preset. In case that we don't find it, what you would see is that this is going to be opened and you will see your code. Worst case scenario, which could happen probably, especially for those who have user-defined events text files with user-defined events, there should not be many of you who have really leveraged this old existing feature. Maybe you have to go and copy it by hand, so I apologize, or simply look it up, the preset again, and you will probably find it on HubHop anyways. I put a lot of effort into this to make it backward compatible. I'm really sorry if it's not working for everyone, but it should work for almost 95% of all the MobiFlight users. If you experience trouble, use the comments, let me know. Better join our Discord server, and there we will probably be able to help you. It should not be the end of the day or the end of the world if this happens to you. I just wanted to be transparent about it and call out for it, so that you know that if you're experiencing some issues, where this might come from. This is a very exciting new feature, and I would say let's move on to the next one. Next feature, allowed to trigger an input action on a sim variable or MobiFlight variable change. Well, this is a really cool feature because it is a very advanced feature, but it allows us to do some automation with MobiFlight. And one of the use cases that I had in mind, or we had in mind when we were discussing this a long time ago on Discord, is the landing lights. The landing lights that turn off when you go above 10 beyond, higher than 10,000 feet, or you turn them on when you go lower. That's a typical procedure in an airliner. Many people forget about it, and some of us might want to automate this. So landing light automation. All right, so what we could do is we go here and we take the preset altitude, and we know that this is probably a very generic information, so we will find it in Microsoft Aircraft Generic, and we will find this indicated altitude here. For example, altimeter indication, indicated altitude. Great. So what we can do now is we can go to the display, and there is this new option here where it says output device. Well, we do not want to use an output device. We want to actually use an input action, and the input action shall be on press. So we can read here that define an action that will be executed when your config value changes. The value can be either 1 or 0 to trigger either on press or on release. So what we can do now is, okay, let's say if the value is 1, then we want to trigger on press, custom input, landing light. And then we will take the very generic, again, should be here, Microsoft or Asobo. Nope, not the generic one. That's interesting. Just landing. Okay, we have landing light down, home, left, up, right, on, off. Let's say landing lights on. All right, we believe that this is going to be the right input. And on the release, when it goes to 0, we do another custom input, landing, landing, and we will take a generic, and we will say landing lights off. Okay, so when we have a value of 1, then it's going to be on press event. When it's going to be 0, then we will trigger this custom input for on release. The only thing that is now missing is our condition. We will say if the current value that we read from this variable, which is the altitude, if this is less than or equal, if current value is 10,000, then set this to 0, otherwise set it to 1. And what this is going to do is it will just make sure that we either read a 0 or a 1, and whenever we have a change of this variable, then it will trigger, or a change of this value, then it will trigger the equivalent on press or on release event. And that's so cool. Now we can go up and cross the 10,000 feet, and we will just turn off the landing lights automatically. So you see it's a quite advanced feature, but make something out of it. It's totally flexible, and you can see it's also having an onChange event. So whenever the value changes, not only 0 or 1, it's similar to like the potentiometer or whatever. If that ever made sense, then you could now trigger also an input action. It is an advanced feature, but it's pretty cool that MobiFlight can do this, and it allows for more flexibility and more creativity. Another feature is long-awaited input shift registers implemented by our fellow MobiFlight developer, Neil. So thanks for helping us with this. It was also motivated a lot by a project of yourself, I believe. You can see mainly we had this IC in mind, the 74HC165. And I have to postpone a demonstration of this. I believe it is really worth a individual tutorial, and I do not have all the chip set up right now here on my desk. So apologies for this that I won't be able to demo it, but what I can do is I can actually show you how it looks. So basically the idea is that if you have some device and you add this input shift register to any of the data lines, like it's a very similar setup to the output shift register, and then you can go here, upload it. You can see it's finished, and now on the inputs, it pretty much input shift register demo, input shift register demo. Now you will see that it pretty much behaves similar to a button. There's a little slight deviation here. This means if we have typically these input shifter have 8-bit registers, so we have 0 to 7, which now stands for the pin, that you have your button attached to, and now you can go and assign any event as if it was a button to these individual pins. So I think kudos go to Neil. Thanks for this great work. I'm also really looking forward to seeing what you guys can come up with. I know that there's a lot of activity that is showcased on our Discord server in regards to making your own custom PCBs and integrating such components into your system so that you can use just one Arduino but have an expansion or have more I/O pins available. That makes MobiFlight even more powerful and also flexible, and hopefully, it's of great use for some of you guys out there. It's also another proof that this idea of being an open source project is actually really working, because this was 100% user or community contribution, and that also makes me very, very proud and very, very happy. Let's go back to our list. Let's now get into the improvements. So there are smaller improvements like the little HubHop button, because obviously HubHop is another MobiFlight community that makes sense to be integrated here in our toolbar. Really easy access, super fast, super quick, and something that has been added as a little improvement. Then another community contribution, which is really, really cool, the fix for the incorrect update of pin selection combo boxes. So let's take a look real quick what that means. In the past, it was not possible to, for example, if you had something like the input shifter, to say, I made a mistake. It is not 210, it's actually 012. What you had to do is you had to go like change one, like for example, because 0, 1, and 2 was not available anymore in the other drop downs, so you had to go maybe like this and then switch over and get back here and then use another pin. It was kind of cumbersome, but now this actually can be switched on the fly as long as you just go like this, for example. These pin values in the drop-downs will always be updated on the fly without having to switch over to another device. Thanks so much for Jock, for GOCC, Giorgio, Jock, for helping with this and making it possible so that I was able to add this to this release. Thank you very much. Another small improvement is the config execution speed box wording was confusing. Again, I'm going to open up this guy. Yeah, I don't really want to upload these, but yeah, that's a small improvement here at this label for the config execution speed. It now reads you can control the execution speed. If you experience some lag in your input, very fast settings might impact performance though. Really now it's saying slow, or there was kind of a confusing text in the past. So this is this little improvement. Then another one, clicking links on the release note fixes results in broken page. We saw this earlier. You can now actually click on this release notes and they will take you to the website. Some people with an old Internet Explorer browser on their computer, which would then be the default, were experiencing some problems with the old way of showing it. Then I also decided to remove the serial number from the drop-down labels for MobiFlight modules and joysticks. I think this added a lot of clarity. It's really less cluttered. We don't see the serial numbers anymore in any of these places. There used to be, let me pick one here, like the HubHop demo. There used to be, like here in this dropdown, we can still see that there is the serial number. And that was the case, used to be the case for all the different places here, but it was really kind of cluttering and using up space without a real benefit. So this has been removed. And we also added an expansion option for the variable field. I already showed that before. Okay, so the expansion is really here for those who have more complicated and longer presets that they would like to put in here. Custom presets, they can make use of this little button to expand this. The precision is always going to be remembered. So the next time that you open this and you really see the code, then it will just be either small or large, depending on your favorite setting. Let's take a look at the bug fixes. Configuration of an LCD with 8.2 characters leads to crash of the Arduino. Okay, this is also something that happened. I mean, MobiFlight is flexible and is done in a way that you can provide random or your desired individual settings for the LCD display. Let me show this real quick. Like this, yeah, it's not limited to certain settings, and 16 and 2 lines is very common as a module, but apparently there's also one that has only 8 characters per row per line, and this was breaking, unfortunately, because of the MobiFlight message that is displayed at the beginning. Okay, this got fixed. Then what else? Output tab for servo not saved if data is changed. This is actually a bug that was introduced during the beta phase, so it's not really something that I will talk about right now. Then this is actually, the next one is really cool because it's logging with debug level slows down MobiFlight. And this is not only a bug fix, I think this should have become a new improvement, because I will show you that the new logging window looks really, really super neat. And okay, we probably should also switch over to debug messages so that we see a little bit more. Let me also enable the joystick axis, because this now should be, if we have a joystick connected, which we don't have at the moment. That is funny. Side take, rudder pedal. Oh yeah, my rudder pedals. Oh. Okay, then I have to also enable offline mode and run it. And now we see that there's a lot of messages coming in, and it's super fast. And it is super fast. And doesn't have nearly any impact on the performance. In the past, it was always like, oh, my encoders were lagging. And then the answer or the question from the Discord channel was, do you have debug enabled? And then the answer was, yes, I do. Well, then you have to disable it because it has an impact on performance. And that was like one of the main drivers of improving this. And it's really, really cool now. There's actually even a little addition to it. You can go and select these rows and then copy, for example, Notepad. If you ever needed to share this, you can copy it from there. Thanks to Neil also for adding this really nice detail to it. And you see that there's little icons, and it's really, really fast, and it's really, really cool. So now you can probably leave this on debug or whatever you want to have it without having to worry that your encoders lag, or that like your potentiometers or so get delayed. Let me know if this is actually really the case for you guys. That would be really, really cool feedback, and very interesting feedback. So far, the feedback is really, really positive, and everyone liked the new debug window. And if you now think, for example, hey, how come that there's already feedback for a version that just got recently released? Well, then I just want to take the opportunity and point out that we have a beta program that you can always join, but this comes with a disclaimer. Yeah, so first of all, I'm going to show you here beta versions. So every time there's a beta version released and you have this check enabled, then you will also be informed about this new version, which is not officially stable released version. So you have to understand, it's really valuable for me as a developer to receive this early feedback during a beta version. So that I can, maybe when I try out a new feature, get feedback soon before I release it to the entire MobiFlight community, but also be warned, it has happened a couple of times that also a beta version was a little bit broken or introduced a new feature and also introduced a new bug. But again, it helps me to make sure that the stable version is tested before it is going out to the entire community. So thank you everyone also who decided to join the beta program. Good. So what else do we have? We have exception when an encoder write and write fast are not set. This is also something that I won't demo. It was a hidden bug that probably did not bug many of you guys out there, but it was, and as soon as I found it, I fixed it. That's my motto. Yeah, a bug is there to be fixed. Woohoo! Welcome screen. The button was not centered in the German user interface for some reason. This is also now fixed, so it's hard for me to showcase that. Then stop implementation for output shifters sets all outputs as on. This is also a bug fix that I won't go into detail because it was introduced during the beta phase and got also nicely resolved by actually someone from the community. Thank you very much for helping on this too. Then this is also not a bug fix. This should really also be an enhancement. And it is really important to point it out to you because we had a couple of questions about this in the forum or Discord. So we have now 3 checks, yeah, that have to check OK before MobiFlight is able to connect to Microsoft Flight Simulator. Okay, so I will demo this now. The first check, offline mode is off, which is good. The first check is that it says, oh, I see that there is a process that is called Flight Simulator exe, and this is an indicator for me that Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 is running. So this is the feedback that we received from MobiFlight, that it detected Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 successfully. Okay, first condition fulfilled, or this is step 1. Now you can still see that it says it doesn't have a SimConnect connection. So MobiFlight needs a working SimConnect connection to the flight sim to be able to start the entire communication through the WASM module. Okay, so it should not take too long to get to the point that MobiFlight can actually connect with SimConnect. And you can see that here in the background, also in these log entries, you will see that every 10 seconds, there is an attempt made by MobiFlight to connect either to the FSU IPC module or to the SimConnect module. As long as it doesn't have any connection in place, every 10 seconds, it will do the same thing and try to connect. Oh, now something happened. You see the info is here, connected to SimConnect, and still it's not green, and it used to be green already at this point. And now you see that it also changed over to WASM module connected. So at this time, the WASM module was already loaded by Microsoft Flight Simulator, so that this works actually, okay? You really have to make sure that you install the latest WASM module that ships with this version of MobiFlight. And you also have to make sure that you restart your Microsoft Flight Simulator installation, or the running process, not the installation, sorry. You have to restart Microsoft Flight Simulator so that it can pick up this change. This is very unfortunate, but it is really needed. I have not put yet a reminder into the UI in form of a pop-up dialog. Maybe I will do that because it has led to confusion. So yeah, now I said it loud and clear. If you get to the point that it says SimConnect connection was established, but it never turns green and doesn't show WASM module connection is established successfully, then you should reinstall the WASM module and you would have to restart your flight simulator. But it's really cool because now we really are 100% sure that we have a working connection with the WASM module only if this is green. All right, cool. There was this one, a precondition deletion is saved when cancel is pressed. Yes, this was also a bug with preconditions. When you went here and added for example, I don't want to add it. Let's say config item, blop, and we apply this, okay. Doesn't make sense, this preset, but if you loaded this and then you went there and you said remove and you actually decided to cancel this and you open it again, then this was removed, and now you can see because we canceled it, it did not get removed. Only if I say remove and now okay, the next time you open this, then it will not be there anymore. Then the next one is adding devices under some circumstances causes an exception. And this was in the MobiFlight modules dialog, and it was also fixed by, it should have been Geog. Yeah, thank you so much for doing this. This was here in the MobiFlight module dialog. Some circumstances, if you did not really pick or select the right node here, and you clicked on add a device down here, then it would have crashed. So this is now taken care of. Thank you very much for contributing to this release with this fix, Geog. Thank you very much. Then we have MobiFlight throws an exception on loading a config where the input config items, button, encoder, or analog are null. yeah, this was also an annoying kind of hidden bug that I was able to fix. And it should now make it more stable when by accident loading some weird configuration that should probably not have been there in the first place. But yeah, sometimes these constellations happen, and now it's taken care of. Your MobiFlight will not break anymore. Then the test mode, it doesn't turn off last tested config. Okay, bug fix, we could also call it an improvement. Basically, when you had many lines here, and I would have to have a file with a couple of them, and it runs through the, with the test mode, it goes through the different outputs, then it would sometimes just stop with the last line still being active. And now when you stop, all the devices that are connected, or all the devices that are part of your configuration, will for sure receive a stop command and will turn off as you would expect it from the test mode when you stop it. The second last one on the connector side, crash when defining outputs with no FSU IPC present. Yeah, this is also a slightly misleading title of this bug, but basically what sometimes happened when you were in test mode and MobiFlight was going through your configurations, and when you were then on the fly creating a new configuration, and then in some circumstances it could happen that MobiFlight trips on it, and yeah. So, okay, so the last one is the interpolation result is now not a string anymore. It was an unfortunate situation that the interpolation result actually always contained in parentheses the original value before the interpolation, and this was only done for the interpolation itself. However, this on the one hand, so you would see this in here, and maybe I can actually find an old version of MobiFlight. Okay, so in a old version of MobiFlight, in this case, for example, a really old one, 9.1, when we did an interpolation like this here, 1424, and let's say from starting at 100, and if I go to the offline mode, oh no, I can actually run this, I can activate this. So what I can see is that my original value was 0 that I read, but the interpolation result was 100. And yeah, unfortunately, when I created a config reference with this, for example, which is not activated, now I will see that there is an error with my transformation. So why is that? Well, this is because, unfortunately, this became a string. 100 parenthesis 0 cannot be treated as a number, and this was basically the problem that we had. So if I save this now and I start it with MobiFlight 9.3 again. Okay, so now if I go back to the current version of MobiFlight, and if I load this, and if I run this now you see that the interpolation result is not shown anymore there. It's not a string anymore. And now we can also use this referenced value as we can with any other value. Good. And well, that kind of was the set of innovations for the MobiFlight application connector app. And some changes have also been made to the firmware. We already talked about the input shift registers. That is cool. And there was also an increase of the button count that the Uno can take to the maximum number of inputs that the Uno can have. So this should be 16 if I'm not wrong. Okay, yeah, we have 8 buttons only in the past, and now it's 17 total pins available. So now we have all these pins available to be assigned to buttons. That's really, really cool. And actually also something really, really cool is that we have this new feature. Brightness of 0 shall turn off the LED display module completely. And this is a really, really cool innovation. It only was needed on the firmware, but maybe it is important to point out to you guys who have used this feature in the past. So when you have a 7-segment display, let me see, I have a radio with 7-segment displays connected. And we have 7-segment display. Then you have the 7-segment display. And you will take the COM radio. It should be radio or generic. We have COM receive index, and we have index 1. Okay, and then we can go to the output device and we'll take it from the radio display module, and this is the COM2 for me, and I would say, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and this decimal point here. And if I go to test, I can see that it is actually working really, really nicely. I should probably always stop my execution. So now I can test this. Everything is looking good, but this one is in the wrong spot. So now it's on the 3rd digit. Perfect. And I have something that is called brightness reference. So let's just say okay and say brightness control. And then we can statically set this to 1, for example, or 15. Let's set it to 15. The brightness control. So the 7-segment display can now use this brightness reference here for the brightness of my display. And as soon as as long as it's 15, this will be the full brightness. So if I run this now, this is now showing 100 and brightness control 15. If I bring it down to 1, it becomes very dim. But the cool thing is if I take it to 0, then it actually goes off entirely. And the big advantage over doing something like blanking out the display or so is that also the decimal point is actually going to be turned off. So this is a really nice way of turning off a device in case, for example, that we do not have master battery and avionics switches turned on. So that's a really cool improvement for sure. All right. What else? What else do we have on our list? I think I have the feeling we are getting to the end. Yeah, all right. So this one was already covered with the LCD. Mega Pro Micro Uno can crash after upload if 4 7-segments are configured. And Uno and Pro Micro crashes after config upload once a stepper is defined. Okay, I will just take the opportunity now one more time to really make a big, huge shout out. Say thank you to especially Rolf and Jörg and Neil, who helped me with making this entire rewrite of the firmware, one could say. Like, we really reorganized a lot of stuff, which hopefully allows us to add more functionality to the firmware in the future more easily. And yeah, one more time, thank you so much, guys, for being of such great help and showing so much engagement and enthusiasm to support the MobiFlight project. That makes me very, very proud. And it's really great to have your experience and knowledge on board of the MobiFlight community. Okay, now we are at the end of this release review video. I hope you can share my excitement too. So many cool new stuff, so many features, improvements, and bug fixes that made it into this video. It was a lot of effort, but thanks to your help and thanks to the community and thanks to the contributors, we really made it one more time. It's a lot of effort that goes into one of these releases, a lot of testing, preparing, and coding and discussing and whatnot. But yeah, it's definitely worth it. I'm really enjoying it. And please Always make sure to stay up to date with your MobiFlight version. Don't be afraid of updating just because it's working for you at the moment and you say, maybe the new MobiFlight version breaks it. Please, if that ever happens, just let me know. Just let us know. Share this bug that you find on Discord. Speak about it. Typically, it's going to get resolved like super fast. And you know, it's not only you might be affected by this, it is also potentially others on the community. I want that MobiFlight constantly improves, and I also want that you as a community help me, you know, with providing feedback to create a more stable version with every update. So all this feedback is super appreciated. Thank you so much. Stay safe, stay healthy, and many happy landings, and good luck with your home cockpit. See you soon on the next release review video or one of my tutorials, and make sure to subscribe to this channel, go to the website, register with the forum, and have a good one. Bye bye.